Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
This is Rosemary Sandison. She's a very special guest today. She has 40 years of experience in town planning in this area, Kyalami, Bolu, and the surrounds. You're also part of some very interesting groups, which is the Gecko group, some planning groups, evaluation and planning, and the Birds Wildlife Association. Maybe you can just touch a little bit on those, because I know not everybody knows what those are.
I belong to Gecko, which is a registered organisation, but primarily because in our area it is a conservancy area. So a group of us like to make sure it remains as such. And we have sensitive wildlife and fauna and flora to protect in this area. So we watch applications that come through, which has created the Kyalami planning group as well, so that we can hopefully preserve the area and hopefully encourage the local authorities and the provincial authorities to implement the legislation that does protect our area. It does make this area entirely unique for Johannesburg. I mean, we're 40 minutes from the centre of town.
Absolutely.
So it's something worth preserving for the future of the city.
I agree. Yeah, so that's part of the reason why I got in touch with Rosemary, is because I am a realtor, property professional in this area, and I'm fairly new, so I want to make sure that I understand the rules and regulations, because I myself am a resident in the area, and I also want to preserve what we have, because it's just so lovely to live here. Yeah. So there is an urban development boundary in this area. Can you sort of go over what areas that covers?
Yeah, sure. The urban development boundary is a boundary limiting urban development. The city have that in a few places to limit urban sprawl and to protect sensitive areas. So our area is from Lone Hill, the Yuxke River, up William Nicol, and then a development that's taken place called River Sands. We're on the edge of that. Travels all the way up to Summit Road, to the R55, and then back down to the R71. So we have a lot of urban development happening around that area, those areas. So our area is contained within that area, which is actually outside the urban development boundary.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. The city have also expressed a desire to maintain the urban development boundary, and they've said that if they have to provide services and allow further urban sprawl into this area, it will not only lose a valuable green lung for the city, but it will also incur massive costs that the city can't afford.
What would you say the reason is that we really want to protect that? Because obviously there are people who are just hungry to encroach in that area and take away, as you say, the green lung of this area, which is so important for us in a city like Joburg.
Yeah, you know, it's a huge sporting area, apart from being a sensitive environmental area. It's a huge sporting area. We have the equestrian sports happening in this area, which brings in over R1 billion worth of income to the city themselves. And we have cyclists, and we have dog walkers, and you know, it is an important feature for the city for sure.
Absolutely.
And we do have huge pressure on the borders, but the city have been adamant, and kudos to them for ensuring that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. And thank you for you and your team at Gecko and all the other groups you're part of that really, you know, try and just keep that ethics in. And I know that there's quite some fights to, you know, keep that safe for us. So thank you.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I think the majority of people are like-minded.
Yes.
And they're the voices that don't get heard, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will give some people some good information just to understand this area better and why we want to keep it so open space and not have sectional title and flats coming up right next to you. Why it's nice to have, a big property that you can't subdivide anymore so that you're not on top of each other.
And what's also happening, it's quite interesting with COVID, people who live in smaller areas and who have been confined there have realized they want more space for their children to grow up in. In a lot of very built-up areas, there are no longer big parks for the kids to play in. There are no places for them to cycle their bikes or even go for safe walks.
Yes.
So the trend is changing a little bit away from higher density and more into open space. And for those people who can afford to have open space for their children, this will be one of the last areas in Johannesburg where you can still have your children playing in the garden, climbing trees, and walking hopefully safely in the roads, learning how to ride horses by riding their bikes, the outdoor lifestyle, and that's what this area offers. Look, the city have to densify. We have a lot of people coming into the city, and the city have designated areas where density will take place. So some of those lovely big suburbs won't be lovely big suburbs in years to come, but hopefully this area being outside the urban development boundary will retain that open space.